Start us off with a broad overview question as to the state of the current regulatory environment for MSMEs in India and the key barriers that exist to the transition to a sustainable business model.
Good morning. So first of all, thank you Saurabh for inviting me. Fantastic campus of University, wonderful topic to deliberate on, and what more stimulating remarks than to have Dr. speak about it. So in my opening comments limited to 5 minutes, I will try to cover a thread like follows. I'll little bit dwell upon climate change. I'll talk about climate action. I will talk about energy transition as a absolutely top-notch option for achieving this climate action objectives. Then I'm going to make a case for bioeconomy or bioenergy, which is very front runner in terms of achieving this carbon neutrality. Then we are going to talk about today's topic, which is how do we mainstream the MSMEs in the bioeconomy and how bioeconomy is one of the sunrise sectors. The company I represent, Praj Industries, is involved in bioeconomy. We are providing sustainable solutions by accelerating the energy transition through bioeconomy. And I'll come to bioeconomy in a minute. But I think the threat of climate change is real. We all know that today, in fact, only today there was a post from UNDP saying that only green colored countries are unaffected by climate change and the whole world map was black. And the recent heat waves in Europe and in America are just testament of how difficult crisis we have on hand, and we have to spare. I mean, there are no options that needs to be spared, but we need to table everything. And basically, cost of climate change, which rarely gets talked about, runs in trillions of dollars. It's extreme floods, or all the things that we talk about in terms of climate calamities, climate disasters are rarely factored in, considering the problem that we have on hand. And therefore that brings us to climate actions. And the whole pitch of the Glasgow 26 Scope Summit was about the climate actions, was about launching a race to zero campaign, was about carbon neutrality. And that campaign will take a next level at the COP27 summit, which is coming in Cairo later this year. So I think one of the most important topic is how do we all participate in this race to zero campaign. Clearly, energy transition emerged as the most promising solution to achieve this target of race to zero or carbon neutrality. And when we say energy transition, we are essentially talking about moving away from fossil fuel based energy sources to a cleaner and greener energy sources. There is a difference between, I think just before starting the session I was discussing with somebody that clean tech is important, clean energy is important, but it's not exactly green. So clean tech and green tech are different, and we are going to talk a little bit more about how green technology or green energy is very promising source of this energy transition. And as Dr. Anavalan said that, the bigger challenge is that of a social engineering, because many jobs today are in the fossil fuel or the traditional energy sources, and how do we transit to a new economy? That would be one of the things. Now coming to bioeconomy, basically every nation leverages the resources that they have. For example, we see that GCC nations or oil producing nations are very heavy on the fossil fuel or crude oil extraction. India is blessed with sun, land and agriculture, and we must leverage our captive resources to create and build an economy which is sustainable, which is all inclusive, which is environment friendly, and which is also helping us achieve Prime Minister's vision of energy independent nation by 2047. I think it is very important. At the same time, Prime Minister has also given call for doubling farmers' income, because I think, and in his opening remarks, he said that, many jobs, the topmost job creator is still agricultural industry or agri-processing industry, followed by MSME, and then coming to formal economy. So I think we need an all-inclusive growth. And low carbon economy, when you talk about carbon neutrality or low carbon economy, there is no better alternative than bioeconomy, because the bio resources or the bio-based feedstock coming from plants, and plants absorb carbon dioxide. And when goods and products made from bio-based resources, when consumed, emit carbon dioxide. So in a way, you have plants absorbing carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. We all studied that. And the products from bio-root emit carbon dioxide. So in a way, you have what we call as a carbon neutral or a circular economy. And often it is also going into the low carbon zone, because it not exactly is always a carbon neutral. But I think that's the most promising part. So what we are talking here is essentially a paradigm shift from a hydrocarbon based economy to carbohydrate based economy. And that's a very important element that bioeconomy is bringing to the table. Now, how do we mainstream the MSME sector is one of the biggest challenge we have in this sunrise bioeconomy. And I think you just mentioned the massive disruptions that even transitioning to EV will have on the MSME sectors, because auto components, auto ancillaries, and the whole automobile industry based on the internal combustion engine today is one of the massive job creators and money spinners in the India's economy. And if we are talking a sudden knee-jerk transition from internal combustion into electric vehicles, we are talking of dramatically reduced components, parts, value chain, re-engineering, reskilling, and whatnot. And not to mention about creation of charging infrastructure, creation of battery waste disposal infrastructure, creation of renewable energy generation sources, which will in true sense justify the presence of electric vehicles, because otherwise, electric vehicles running on fossil fuels, on charging electricity which is produced from coal, doesn't quite help in carbon neutrality. So I think what we are talking here is now a strong case for biofuels, where you have fuels like bioethanol, biodiesel, biohydrogen. There is so much thrust that the government has on hydrogen as an energy source, and there are various ways, whether it is grey hydrogen coming from fossil fuel based LNG or other forms of feedstock. Then there is blue hydrogen, which is coming from electrolysis or water, and then there is a green hydrogen, which is again coming from bio-root. And with the massive dollars going into the R&D, days are not very far when all this become financially viable and become a job creator. So how do we dovetail the MSME to this low carbon economy, which is in the form of bioeconomy, is $1 million question. Transportation is the second largest segment after industry, which is a consumer of energy and which is also emitter of greenhouse gases. So if we can actually decarbonize the transportation sector, we would have moved the needle, pushed the envelope a lot further towards carbon neutrality. And how do we do that? We can do that by harnessing the biofuels. And the government of India has launched a massive campaign for 20% ethanol blending in gasoline. And Prime Minister recently announced that 10% blending in gasoline was achieved 5 months before the target. And then there is increasing thrust. And so as to help achieve this target, government has freed more feedstocks, bio-based feedstocks, which are in the form of not just sugary feedstock like molasses, but which are also in the starchy feedstocks like spoiled grains, damaged grains. India is a net positive producer of grains, and because FDI has no storage space, the grains are rotting. They are getting spoiled. So they are going as waste. So really this waste to wealth initiative that government has taken. And finally the lignocellulose, which is agricultural waste. Cotton straw, wheat straw, rice straw, corn cobs, all that can be used, which is today going as waste, can be used for producing bioenergy. And today this is all burnt, which is also causing biggest challenge in terms of emission of greenhouse gases, high particulate matter in the air, and that is also causing a big health concern. So there are several challenges that we can address if we in true spirit harness the whole bio-based energy sources and mainstream them. Now, how do we actually mainstream the MSME? So there are numerous jobs and entrepreneurship opportunities emerging in the value chain or the ecosystem when we say we need to mainstream the bioeconomy. And these are in the form of bioaggregators, logistics supply providers. These are in the form of job creation there. You know, one of the example I would like to give here is that there is clean tech in the form of compressed natural gas. And compressed natural gas still comes from liquid natural gas, so which is still a fossil fuel based resource, which is still an imported resource, which still costs our nation dollars and affects our current account deficit and devalues our rupee. So if we move from compressed natural gas to compressed biogas, so instead of coming through a fossil fuel route, the biogas route through biosources provides a fantastic solution. And how we can achieve that? You can imagine that there could be a mushrooming of decentralized bioenergy plants all over the nation, which are located to the farm in the farming community, so that the farmer, after harvesting, supplies the same residue from his farm to the biogas plants and produces the fuel which he can use in his own tractor or vehicles which is running there. And the co-products, which is in the form of biomanure, actually improve the soil quality and productivity of his farm, and in the process create employment opportunities in those farms, and also entrepreneurship opportunities in terms of uprooting or collating that biomass, aggregating it, compacting it, storaging. And just like you have what India saw in last millennium, a massive movement of Amul, where small marginal milk producers actually came together and it became a movement. You can have a small marginal farmers actually supply their feedstocks, and like a farmer producing organization or FPO, they can centrally store. It can create massive employment opportunities in the MSME sector. So I think there is a strong case.
Yes. Since it is 5 minutes,
yeah,
somebody should keep time.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just concluding, sir. So I think there is a strong case here for job opportunity creation, employment opportunity creation for the MSME sector by mainstreaming that in the bioeconomy. Thank you very much for your patient listening, time and attention.